Peter, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen when the time is ready and call on you as well.
Okay, I'll start it now.
Thank you.
Thanks. And here we go.
You-
And you see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep. Great. Well, hey everybody, good evening.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm well, Jane. Hope you are the same.
I'm all right. I'm back from vacation, so this is a real adjustment.
So you haven't lost the feeling yet. Give it about till noon tomorrow. It'll be gone.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I got 852 emails more I have to go through. So I have time tomorrow blocked off on my calendar. So if you sent me an email, I haven't read it yet, but I will.
Nope. I knew you were on vacation. I said, I'm not touching it.
I appreciate you.
Ron Powell let me know that he was going to be about 15 minutes late. Um, I know John Coote was just on um, the appointment
Council.
committee meeting,
Uh,
so he should be joining any minute now, as well as Ari. I don't see Mike's here, Kirk, Nancy. Um, I don't know if Mark Doxer was going to make it. I know he wasn't going to make it last Wednesday. We'll give it a couple minutes before we get started.
Pat, while we're waiting, I'm not sure I got the packet. I'm not sure it's coming through. It's not posted online. Could I trouble you to shoot me a copy of the packet?
Peter, can someone shoot Karen a copy of the packet?
That'd be awesome.
Jenna, Jane, Peter.
yep.
Sorry, my microphone was muted. Sure. Karen, do I have your email address? Karen,
Karen.herrick at
Karen
readingma.gov.
dot here. I'm sorry. Whoops. Nope. Herrick.
Yeah, at readingma.gov. Get rid of that dot.
Oh, Reading MA. Got it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Oh, yep, that's me. Thank you.
Sure. See if I can find it real quick. Do.
Okay, while you're doing that, we're about 5 past. I think we definitely have a quorum. I'm gonna get the meeting started. Start off with a roll call attendance. Nancy Toomey,
Here.
John Coot,
Yes.
Greg Stepler. I don't see Greg online. Kirk McCormick,
Here.
Mark Doxer. I don't see Mark on. I know he couldn't make last Wednesday. Mike Nazaro. I think I see Mike online.
Yeah, his microphone's muted.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
So Michael's here.
Oh, yeah.
Ari Greenberg.
Here.
And Ron Powell is not here, but I think he is going to be joining a little bit late. He texted me and said he'd be about 15 minutes late. And Pat Tompkins, I'm here. So it looks like we're missing Greg, Stepler, and Mark Doxer, and Ken Grizel. I don't see Ken online. So tonight, for any votes we have, I'm gonna have Michael vote in Mark's place and Ari vote in Greg's place. So any topics we have to vote on. Just a quick review of the agenda. We're gonna have public comment. I'm gonna push that back a little bit. We're gonna approve the prior meeting minutes, talk about schedule, budget, overall project updates. Any change orders, contract amendments, a review of project meetings. And we have a few different topics to cover under previous new business general project discussion, and a couple possible votes. I think that there's going to be a little bit of discussion there, so we're going to try to move generally through the meeting quickly. Going to review project invoices and then upcoming meeting dates. So I'm going to skip over public comment. When we do get to public comment, I'm just going to move that out of order. So anyone that's attending the Council on Aging meeting that has public comment has the opportunity. When I do take public comment, I'm going to ask that people keep it to a 3-minute comment. And I'm usually pretty open about hearing public comment during discussion, but I know it's going to be a long meeting with a lot of discussion. So I'm going to be very strict about keeping public comment to the public comment section of the meeting. Moving to item 3. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review the last month's meeting minutes, and if so, if anyone wants to make a motion to approve those. Take a minute to review them if you need it.
Move to approve the May 6th, 2026 Permanent Building Committee meeting minutes.
A second.
Anyone have any commentary or discussion? Hearing none, I'll go to a vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coot,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Moving on to item 4, I'll turn it over to Peter. You can give us an update on the project schedule.
Sure, what I thought I'd do first, I think my agenda got mixed up. Let me just go back to that page. Good evening, everybody. Thanks. I'm gonna
Apologies
do
if I'm working off an old agenda.
Yeah.
I have 2 agendas floating around, one from last Wednesday's meeting and one from tonight's meeting.
So since last Wednesday, I switched 4 and 5, and I'll clean it up when I get you the final version after tonight. But
Okay.
number five, I did this as a snapshot. I'm going to call it the dashboard. It's going to be the dashboard. Then I'll go into the budget a little bit here as well. I thought I would do this as a fast kind of a snapshot for everybody's purpose of the project. I've broken it out into different tables here. Construction time, and then the contract values for the general contractor, the owner's contingency, the construction contingency, the owner's contingency, the designer's contract, the OPM contract, and then what we're looking at for upcoming changes that are currently under review. This kind of gives the committee a snapshot of what's happening on one single page as opposed to thumbing through multiple pages. I won't go too long-winded. It's relatively self-explanatory. This is just strictly a timeline, the date the contract was signed, the date of substantial completion, how many days has elapsed, how many days to go, and so on. I won't go through every line item unless there's questions. Next area, the next table is the general contractor's contract value, 19.3 million. One change order approved, revised number, paid to date, which includes tonight's anticipated payment, gives you overall balance remaining, percent paid, and so on. When it comes to the construction contingency, same thing. We have a $3.6 million contingency. We approved one change order. You can see the difference. With a balance remaining of 3.6, we've used 2%, 98% remaining. The owner's contingency, same thing. We have $1 million and some change. We've approved $1,900, and you can see the difference here. Same thing over here on just to give you a snapshot on the designer's contract, where we are. Base amount, couple of amendments. Paid to date, balance to finish, OPM contract, same thing, base contract, amendments, paid to date, etc. Then here is just some proposed, what we call PCOs, proposed change orders that was submitted by the general contractor that are currently under review by the OPM and designer. We have not finished that review yet. So I just wanted to give you that snapshot on that dashboard. Are there any questions on that? Otherwise,
I think that's great.
Budget.
I think that's a great summary.
Yeah, thanks. I thought it would just be easier to read this on a single sheet as opposed to thumbing through everything. But if you want the backup, here's the backup on the budget. I'm sure you're all familiar with this format. And I've highlighted in yellow, just for tonight, the invoices that are being recommended for payment and approval. The OPM's invoice, the designer's invoice, the materials testing and inspectional services, UTS. And then we have the requisition number 2 from the general contractor's invoice over here. Beyond that, those are the only fresh or new entries into the budget. And of course, here's the bottom line numbers. 27 million. Oh, I got to change that number there. Something's wrong. A little goof up there. And here's just the values. That number doesn't look right to me, the total project. I must have added something wrong. Just noticed that. But I'll clean it up.
You've got your extra 1980 there.
Yeah, I think I gotta subtract it. So, anyways,
Yeah.
there's a check I can follow up on that. So sorry about that, but that's number 5, the budget. If there's any questions, otherwise I'll move on to the schedules. One second, please. Not much has changed from the last 30 days. The dates from the OPM schedule remain the same. I kind of highlighted where we are today with a 30, 60, 90-day look ahead, so to speak, from there. And then when it comes to the construction schedule, we do have a final schedule that we're working out some final details with J&J on the baseline schedule. As you may recall, last month we received the schedule for the first time. The OPM and the designer of BH+A and Turner Townsend Heary fed back a bunch of comments to J&J to add to their schedule. We had some questions on it. They've made some corrections. We're just looking at the final review now. It's pretty much in pretty good shape. We're probably a day or two away from accepting the baseline schedule as just that, the baseline, so we can use it as a reference point. Should there be any changes against the project, we can fall back to the baseline to see where we once stood, and should there be any claims or delays, we can referee the claim or the delay against the baseline. This schedule here that's highlighted is the critical path schedule from the contractor J&J. I did not include in the package the 30-page schedule from the contractor, although I do have it available for those who want it. It's rather voluminous, as you can imagine, but this gives you, again, I'll use the word snapshot of the critical path items in the schedule. To date, the schedule or the project is on schedule or within the scheduled timelines that were initially anticipated. And when it gets time to the construction update, I'll have April Backus from our office give an update on activities on the site. But for the most part, they've been, as you've seen, if you've driven by, they've prepared the site, they've done excavation, they have foundations going in, and they're moving in the direction of starting to backfill, do some underground utilities, and things of that nature. But I'll let April give more details when it comes to that. I'll pause and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, we can move right down into, if you'd like, the project updates. With respect to the construction update, I'll have April provide an update if she'd like. April, I think you're on the call here.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So, Peter, you are right. We had another concrete placement on Friday. We will have another one Wednesday, Thursday this week. We're still trying to figure out which day the placement is. Oh, he's got some pictures. All right. So that picture is actually the elevator pit before the concrete pour. The one next to it is the Caltech, which is actually done now. Let's see what else we got. We got the Caltech again. And then we have the foundation wall that points towards the parking lot. What else we got here? Okay, and then this is also a foundation wall pointing towards the parking lot. It also has where we're starting to do some of the underground utilities as well. And then that other one is one of the spread footings.
Is this the front entrance, April, on the left-hand side?
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of anchor bolts here for the entranceway and stuff. Right. Okay.
Yep.
Keep going.
So plumbing did start doing their underground today, and we will start electrical, I believe tomorrow he was going to be there. And backfilling has started. We've had UTS on site doing compaction tests. We've also had them on site doing the concrete tests. And we are moving in the right direction. Everything looks great.
Okay. Any questions on the construction update? If not, we can always come back. With regards to the procurement of the commissioning services, don't have anything finalized yet, but yes, I know I keep saying this month after month, but we're going to get to that and get it out the door very soon. So I don't have any update on that tonight. I can then move on to 6B. If the design team, probably Colin, from BH plus A might want to give some updates, or anybody else from the BH plus A team. Couple of
Yeah,
words.
Peter, thank you. I can provide a quick update. Thank you, Peter and April, for the status of construction. You covered all the big parts and pieces I was going to touch on. Beyond that, I am continuing administration of the contract for construction, reviewing submittals, responding to RFIs. To date, we have processed 117 submittals. So things, as April said, are moving along well. Some of the exciting submittals are starting to come in. The steel trusses, the steel submittals. I just saw the wood roof trusses come in last week, and I'm currently working on an all trades underground coordination submittal. That includes all the piping, the electrical, the communications, low voltage, everything coming into and going out of the building under the slab. I am on site weekly now to inspect the progress of the work and be there for the weekly OAC meetings, and things are looking good. The pictures that Peter and April just had up are very helpful. That's what I've seen when I'm out there, and I'll be there again tomorrow. Very excited to see where things are at that time, because it's construction's moving very quickly. The building's really taking shape. If you can get out there and walk around, you really get a feel for the size of the building now, and it's exciting to see.
Thank you, Colin. Okay. If there's nothing else, again, you can always come back if there's questions. 6C, if there's anything from the owner's side, Town of Reading or similar, any updates for the project? There's an opportunity here, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I know I don't have anything. I don't know, Jane, Jenna, or Joe, if there's any updates that you want to offer.
I don't have any updates right now. I'm grateful for all of these updates from design. I like to get out to the site at least once a week. I know we have staff that are on site daily, multiple times a day. Joe Huggins is there twice a day. Engineering's out there. Building commissioner goes out there. So I like to get out. I usually try to go out on Thursdays and visit the site. So, and April's been great to work with, and J&J has been great to work with too. So on site. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I'll keep moving along, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda, item 7, there's a few things. 7A, I hope the committee members have had a chance to look at what we're talking about in between building committee meetings, which is once a month, every 30 days. We're going to find it's going to be beneficial to help move the project along, to have an intermediate authorization from the town representatives. I did put together a kind of a change order amendment process. You may have seen this in your email last couple of days. It's kind of a narrative, if you will, of what we're expecting to occur. Should there be a need to have some monies authorized in between building committee meetings to help move the project along? Essentially, what it comes down to is working with, say, Joe Huggins, who's representing the town as the chair of this authorization. He would work with the financial working group, which are several members from the committee, along with some representatives from the town's financial side, the town accountant's office, finance director, I should say. But essentially what it comes down to is if there's an immediate need to have authorization of monies to be provided to move the project along for whatever reason. It's not limited to the general contractor's reasoning or immediate changes, but if it does come to that, it would come to, you can see my list here, some examples, whether it be the owner, the designer, the contractor, the OPM, or other. The process would simply be, we would identify the need and the purpose. We would ask for a written proposal. Let's say on the general contractor side, they would submit that proposal to the designer and the OPM. We would do an evaluation of it. we would make a recommendation, forward it on to the financial working group and Joe Huggins and others with our recommendations, either A, accept as submitted, or B, as edited. Get their feedback. If there's any adjustments, make those adjustments. Get some sort of authorization from the working group, the financial working group, and then authorize the work to proceed under a set dollar value, either A, fixed lump sum amount that's agreed to, or a time spent not to exceed, depending on the situation, the need, and what have you. All this would be done in writing. We would have authorizations prepared, signed, and given with direction to the contractor in this example, and then help move the project forward. Once that's all done and assembled, the OPM, our office, between April and myself, we would summarize it within a day or so, definitely within 2 days or 3, no more than 3, and we would feed back to the full committee the ongoing situation, so you have an awareness and you're fully informed on the adjustments or the changes to the project financially and the situation and why. And then, of course, we would do a full presentation at the next monthly building committee meeting. If there's not an immediate need for any such authorization, the normal process would take place during the 30 days in between the meetings, where any changes we have adequate and appropriate time. We would prepare such change orders, in this case, construction. Again, same process, bring it forth, and then bring the full authorization for the first time to the full building committee during its monthly meeting, if everything falls in line or within sync based on the calendar and the timing of the situation. All that said is we are looking for a discussion, an edit, an authorization for what I just described in between building committee meetings of a value not to exceed $50,000 for any changes or amendments as mentioned above. This is a kind of a draft narrative of the process. The communication of it certainly can be edited and sent out to everybody as a standard method of how we're going to do business.
Okay.
I'll stop for a minute and ask any questions.
Yeah, so just I believe I wasn't on the library building committee, but it's my understanding if this is consistent with past practices, particularly at the library building committee. I've gone through that. The write-up, I support the concept. I think inevitably we need someone who can make that call to keep things moving. If we can't do that and we delay the project, it'll be much more costly. So we need to have that. We need to be able to pull that lever. And I think the write-up and process that you put together makes sense. And like I said, it's consistent with past practices. I don't know if anyone else on the committee has any other thoughts or questions.
Just Pat, this is Nancy. I was on the library committee, and yes, this is how it was handled. And there were a few things that came up in between, so it was good to have this policy in place.
Thank you. I do think this is something that we should vote to adopt as a committee.
Yes.
And if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt this policy.
Move to adopt the change order authorization policy of 50,000 for through Joe Huggins and the financial working group as outlined.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll go to the vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
and Ron Powell has joined us. Ron?
Thank you. Yes.
And Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, committee members. Appreciate that. We'll keep you fully informed throughout the process if and when it occurs. 7B On the agenda, as mentioned in the dashboard, there's some change orders or proposed change orders that have been issued by the general contractor to the OPM and designers, so those are under review. Don't have a full report just yet, but we'll keep you updated as that unfolds. In particular, the financial working group will be receive the first heads up. 7C, with respect to contracts or change orders or financial matters, I'm working with, well, myself and April, I should say, are working with the procurement office for the town of Reading. Part of the builder's risk policy that the town purchased on the project, there's a provision within the language of the policy that states the underwriters would like to see some security cameras posted on the project site to monitor the site, particularly during non-business hours. So the procurement office, through Katie and Joshua, they're out there procuring some services from a security monitoring company. And we'll be getting some proposals in shortly, which will be brought forth to the financial working group and then on to this building committee for recommendation and approval. Just kind of giving you a heads up of what's coming in the short days ahead. Next
Thank
one,
you.
8, just again, informational meetings. The owner, architect, contractor, the OAC meetings are happening weekly, as April and Colin mentioned. They're happening frequently and taking place. I did want to mention, if it's worth talking about, there was a discussion with the Reading Municipal Light Department regarding energy credits. Just wanted to make mention of that. I know this project has a solar system. Did I lose the screen share, or you guys can still see it?
I can see
I
it.
can still see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, sorry, I thought something went wrong on my side. Any case, there was a meeting, again, regarding a joint meeting on the Reading Retail Project and the Killam with the Municipal Light Department regarding potential energy rebates or renewable energy credits on the project. I don't have a full-blown answer to that. I think that's still ongoing, but I just wanted to make a mention of that so the committee's aware. Moving down the list.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead. Somebody, no.
Are you about to? Where are
Okay.
you?
No, number 9.
Okay. Before you jump into number 9, I'm going to open up the floor for public comment. Maybe Jenna, maybe you can, I don't know, you or someone could help me figure out who's got their hand raised, and we'll pick people in some order. Just
Sure
getting
thing.
back to what I stated at the beginning of the meeting. I think there's a few different people that will have public comment. If we can keep it to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. We've heard public comment on some of the topics we're about to talk to. We definitely heard the commentary before. So I mean, there's not a lot of need for repeating, but obviously we want to hear more rather than less. If you can keep it to 3 minutes, and then as we move through discussion, I'm gonna try to keep it public comment restricted to this time period, as opposed to during the conversation. So, so if we have any public comment,
Sure. The first hand raise I see is Carol Perletz and then Karen Gately Herrick.
Okay,
Okay.
my name is Carol Perletz. I'm a senior in Reading. I've been in Reading for 49 years. I want to give support for Ron Powell's option to consider the smaller makerspace room as a multi-purpose room for smaller meetings, and also to go forward with whatever infrastructure is needed to later add the divider to the program flex room to allow for a smaller meeting space if it's needed in the future.
thank you. Karen?
Sure. Thank you, Pat. Karen Gately Herrick, Select Board Member, Liaison to the COA and the Permanent Building Committee. First of all, I just wanted to follow up. There's more gas odors at the Pleasant Street Center on June 1st. There were two events, upstairs, downstairs, evening event, beautiful sunny afternoon, 70, windows are open, doors are open. Um, Marching to the top of the steps, you get hit with a face full of gas smell. And the meeting minutes before mentioned an odor. It's uncombusted gas. It's methane. It's so I think we need to start just being a little more specific. It's not just a random odor. It's there's something wrong with our aging gas system over there. So I texted the town manager. I believe she, um, either she or the fire chief had the team come over, cleared the building, put the events on hold, and of course, all the windows and doors are open. So then we declare it all safe. But the heating system was not running. We have an issue over there. We are going to have a hard time finding future tenants for this building. And just to follow up on an earlier point, it's time that we address this. And then thank you for reopening the discussions under item number 9. It's too bad this is virtual. I think it would have been more helpful for the community if this was in person, and it's too bad about the technical difficulties. I have been attending a lot of small group meetings put on by the library, put on by the Friends of Reading 60 Plus, put on at the senior center. And I also appreciate the proposals to make a makerspace multi-purpose. And thank you, Nancy. Nancy met with me and talked to me, gave me some background on some of the other items you'll cover tonight. And thank you to this committee. You guys are like this amazing, talented group of building professionals, and I'm so glad you're doing this. And I just want to make sure that we keep reminding ourselves that what town meeting and what the voters did was they approved a budget to build a building that will serve the seniors as well as the broader community for the next 50 years. So, I know everybody's working hard to figure out these particular items, A, B, and C. And I was part of the library building project, and we did spend everything. And some things were expensive, and we spent everything except for $90,000 of contingency, which we are wrapping into this project. So things can seem expensive when you hold it out to the side, but there's lots of components of this fabulous project that are expensive. And so I know you guys will consider this, and thank you for including thoughts from the Council on Aging because they are the primary users and they're in there every day. I see lots of them and I also hear from them. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Karen. Jenna, do we have anyone else with their hand up?
I do not see anyone right now. I'm just
We have a
shuffling
comment
through.
in the chat and that person may have had to left. Maybe you want to read
Yes,
that if you don't mind. Thank you.
of course. Yes. So sorry. Forgot about that.
Oh, that's all right. With the
Just
approval of the
seconding.
chair, I mean.
Okay, so there was a public comment from Michelle Klopper, who I think has since left. I'm here for public comment section and may not be able to stay. Wanted to comment on the accessibility of the Recal kitchen. We need to comply with ADA design standards. Section 804 addresses the access standards for kitchens. It has been stated that we are covered. And then I'm not really sure what the second part says. It kind of cut off, but I would suggest someone calls the New England ADA Center, which is also the Institute for Human Services. There's no cost involved, and they'll clarify whether we can be an exception. This way, the issue can be put to rest. And also, it's in the comment section for anyone to read. And I responded that we would say it in public comment. So thanks for the reminder, Karen.
Thank you, Jenna.
Oh, Nancy, do you want to say
Hi.
something? Your hand wasn't raised. I'm sorry.
No, I'm
No.
sorry. I'm rushing in from the Council on Aging meeting.
No worries. Thanks. Okay.
So I just wanted to, I'm assuming this is public comment period? Or
Yes, it is.
did you move to section 9 of the agenda?
No, we moved public comment to just before section 9. So you are right in the middle of public comment. Perfect timing.
Okay. I just wanted to say that Ron Powell, who is our liaison, the Council on Aging liaison to the Permanent Building Committee, and I know that he has submitted a kind of an alternative options proposal. And I think he's going to speak to it later if he hasn't already. But one of the options is to, if the Permanent Building Committee votes not to install the complete divider, then the Permanent Building Committee could at least consider putting the infrastructure in place, the mechanics of the divider, by using the maker space as a multi-purpose room. That's going to take care of short-term need, but long-term need, it would be great if we could have the option of putting that divider in later. So I really think the Permanent Building Committee should consider at least getting the infrastructure. The walls are open, the ceilings are open. To put that infrastructure in now is going to be less money than a complete divider, and really should be seriously considered by the town as an option. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, there's no other public comment, no other hand raised, and no comments in the chat.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Jenna.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll move into item 9. The first item, 9A, we had some questions from someone on Council on Aging, from Maryland. Some good questions about the commercial kitchen and how it's going to be used and how it can be used. I would say they were thought-provoking questions. They prompted some town staff to think about how we can use it, how we intend to use it. And we got input from a lot of different people to respond to Marilyn. I included that response to everyone on the committee. I see questions about the kitchen as really an operational issue or an operational question at this time, not necessarily a design. The commercial kitchen, going back to the initial application from the select board, it's always been a commercial professional kitchen that we're building. The questions about ADA, BH plus A has answered those. Anyone looking at the peer review report, you need to also see BH plus A's response to some of their comments. So I wanted to put this on the agenda. I also wanted to make sure everyone saw the questions and the answers regarding the commercial kitchen and give anyone an opportunity to ask questions or comment on it. I don't think there's really any action other than on the operational side, exactly how that kitchen is used. And there will be sort of multiple restrictions on the kitchen. What will the health department allow? And then there's also like, what does the town want to allow? And those are things that they're going to have to work through. I think they have a pretty good handle on how that kitchen's going to be used, but it's something that will evolve and be worked through. So I don't know if anyone had any questions or comments on that. Hearing none.
This is John Coote. Is it possible for you to put on the screen those comments and your responses to them? There may be people who did not see them. Committee members did, but there are people other than the committee members on this call. Is that possible technically?
Yeah, of course it is.
Pat, I have it if you want me to put it up there.
Yeah, it's yes, that would be great, Peter. it's easily technically possible, but while I'm juggling a couple things, it's good I have Peter here. So I'll run right through them. Questions about um, will we be able to lease the kitchen to the public along with the multi-purpose room? It's an in the basically these responses came from the health department. It's an internal decision. Anytime the kitchen is used for a public event, a temporary food permit must be issued. The kitchen will not be licensed as a commissary shared use kitchen, therefore leasing it to the public on a rent by hour basis or rent by date basis will be prohibited, which is the basic response to all of these questions. Can an outside vendor use the kitchen? Similar response. Anytime the kitchen is used for a public event, a temporary food permit must be issued. For recal functions, temporary food event permit will not be needed. Since the kitchen is permanent, the kitchen will not be licensed as a commissary shared use kitchen. Question 3, will recal staff volunteers be allowed to access the kitchen? Not for food prep, but simply to serve food brought in by another venue if they are not certified for safe food service. It's an internal decision. As long as the individual who is certified can train the staff volunteers on food safety and handling, this wouldn't be an issue. Food handlers classes are accessible online for those who need them. These classes are not as comprehensive as food safety training classes. Would outside people renting the multipurpose room be permitted any access to the kitchen? It's an internal decision. Anytime the kitchen is used for a public event, temporary food permit must be issued. Kitchen staff, the kitchen will not be licensed as a commissary shared use kitchen. Therefore, leasing it to the public on a rent by hour basis or a day by day basis is prohibited. So that was the gist of the questions and responses. But a lot of stuff does come down to like an internal decision. My wife is she works at the food pantry, so she's tip certified. She's food safe serve certified as like a manager. But just because she or any one citizen has that, I don't know that the town's policy will be to simply allow them to rent or use the kitchen. So there's a an internal decision portion of it that'll be worked out as part of the operation. So, does anyone else have any other questions?
It seems to me that the kind of attitude of the whoever you got these response from, the Board of Health or something, is kind of negative. We'd rather not have people use the kitchen. We're spending a lot of money on a professional kitchen, but then they're saying, let's not use it. You got to get a permit, and maybe we'll give you one, and maybe we won't. I find that kind of attitudinally a little bit disappointing. Let's put it that way. It seems to me that we should be promoting a facility, promoting something that we've bought and paid for, to make it a little more friendly for people who are renting that space. It says that they would have to get a what do they call it? A permit. How do you get a permit? Is it easy? Is it just filling in a form, paying $5 or something like that, or is it you have to go through hoops? I'm a little bit disappointed at these responses. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my concern as well. I'm not sure that these answers answer what Marilyn was asking. Like she wanted to know specifically, we have a choice between two options. We have option 1 and option 2. Option 2 is the ADA compliant kitchen. Option 1 is not. And she wants to know with the option that the town has chosen, can we do these functions? So for example, at town meeting last year, one of the selling features for Recal was you can use the multi-purpose room to have something like a wedding shower, a bridal shower. So the question I have, and yes, it is an operations question, but it does inform whether or not option 1 or option 2 is the right design choice. So the question I have for the town is, let's use that as an example. How would that work? At town meeting, we said bridal shower. So walk me through how that would work if somebody wanted to use the kitchen for a wedding shower.
I can
Like
comment
what
on
can
that.
we do?
Or Jane,
Go
did I
ahead. Go
interrupt you?
ahead.
If someone from
Okay.
town staff, I can't answer that. If someone from
Yeah,
town
so
staff
of
wants
course
to.
someone can come in and rent that for a bridal shower, and I don't see these comments to be prohibiting really. I mean, maybe that's how they come across, but anyone who intends to come into the kitchen and cook and prep food needs to have serve safe. It's the law. Um, so that's first and foremost. If there's a vendor who comes in, so if the bridal shower gets it catered from Professor's Market and they're an in-town company, then Professor's Market would come and serve that food. They would be served safe. They would already have the required permits from the health department. So that could certainly happen if someone came in for a birthday party and was just serving pizza from, Columbo's or wherever they went, or Nella's. I don't want to name drop, so I would name them all if I could. But that's allowed, and they can serve that pizza from the outside vendor. So there's different scenarios in which we will operate the kitchen, and those will be clarified. And some of those are clarified right now in our rental agreement. And as far as the ADA portion goes, we did have something written up, and we've reached out to other communities as well about that. And Pat is right to the extent that it is an operational decision. But there was a narrative going around that volunteers couldn't be in there, and because of accessibility requirements, and that's just not the case. There's several volunteers that are in the Wilmington commercial kitchen, and the Newton commercial kitchen. So that's certainly not the case. Those weren't included in that email. I'm happy to provide them. And Jane, if you have anything to add too.
Yeah, I want to be clear that these answers from the health department director. And I requested that the questions go to him for a review because they're the ones who do the permitting. A temporary food permit would be issued for certain events that need to happen. The notion that the kitchen is not licensed as a commissary or shared use kitchen, that is a specific definition that's relevant to some commercial kitchens are rentable by the hour so that people can go in and bake and then sell their baked goods rather than cooking at home because they're coming out of a commercial kitchen, so they meet certain standards. We're not opening up our kitchen for that sort of use. We're keeping this for recal use. Recal functions, we don't even need a temporary food permit. The kitchen's permitted. And as long as our staff and volunteers have proper food safety training, they're fine to use the kitchen and volunteer and serve and all those things. So I just want to be clear. I didn't ask for this isn't something that would, we would necessarily put in the operations manual when just trying to address Mr. Coote's comments on friendliness. We asked for specific definitions about what's the permitting perspective that the health department has, and he's delivered that answer.
Jane, this is John
John.
Coote. Why would we not allow people to rent the kitchen to produce some cookies or cakes or something like that? But what is the town's attitude towards that is what I'm getting at. Why would you be restrictive of people who would responsibly want to do something in there? Presumably they would rent it, and that would be a revenue stream for the town. Why is there kind of this negative restriction? You can't do that. It's our kitchen. You can't do that. That's the kind of negativity that I feel is not welcome.
Can I ask a question? Would there be any expectation that I could go into the high school kitchen and rent it on an hourly basis and create goods to sell for my business?
The high school is not a community center, Pat. Obviously, it's not. A community center.
It's a public building with a commercial kitchen. And
yes, I know
one of our
that's so.
schools
But
has
this is a
one.
community center, and the community would have an expectation that they should be able to use it for doing reasonable things.
I don't think you're wrong, John. I mean, I think that the community would expect to use a community center for all kinds of different local events. I don't think the community, and I think the difference here is that public tax dollars don't subsidize private commercial interests. And that's what the commissary shared use kitchen sort of notion is. It's a private commercial interest, and we're not doing that. There are commercial kitchens that are created for that process, but people pay their rentals and do that. We want to reserve the use of the kitchen for the community to use it. So we could have other kinds of events there and recal related events, and we want to keep it as available to the town to use at nonprofit costs. So if the community
could
wants
ask
to
a
come in and have
question
an
here.
event, yeah, go ahead.
So just to clarify for number one, like if I want to rent the multipurpose, if I want to rent this space to host an event and I want to bring the caterer not from Reading, right? I just want to bring in food service. Can they use is the kitchen leased to them as part of my lease of the space or not?
It can be, and they would get a temporary food permit, and you just apply online through OpenGov.
I think that's what's a little. I think the responses are for those of us not well versed in the food permitting process, that they seem more restrictive than it appears they are, right? Like the kitchen is usable for people renting the space. I in terms of people being able to rent it to run their business, I agree that. I mean, I think that's the line you would need to draw, is this community center is not a space for you to use to run your business. So it would apply to somebody making, furniture in the wood shop they wanted to sell as well. Like, I think that's the line to draw. But it sounds like the answer to these questions are, yes, it's rentable, but not in that specific way that for somebody to lease it by the hour for something not related to the event that they're hosting in the space. But as long as the kitchen can be rented to the people renting the space, it seems like a very reasonable thing to do and in line with what we designed to have a kitchen that was, able to be used that way. But I would suggest perhaps that these questions can be re-answered in a way that's more clear about what the boundaries are to the use of the kitchen by outside parties.
Yeah, we can clean that up for the operations manual. I think that's fair.
Thank you. Thank you, Ari.
So I just want to make sure. So it sounds like the town is saying volunteer supported meal service. You could use the kitchen for that purpose. Is that correct?
Correct.
And community meal programs, outside caterers can come in and use it?
Yep, they would need to have a temporary food permit if they're not local.
So I guess as long as each of these have a temporary food permit, they're capable of using the kitchen.
Yeah, unless it's a recal particular function. Unless it's the town doing it. Yeah.
And cooking classes are able to be done? That's a potential function or no?
Cooking classes would be done in the multipurpose room. We would not hold a cooking class inside that kitchen. It's not designed, it's not a teaching kitchen. That was done intentionally. Yep.
Got it.
Yep. But we still will have cooking classes, of course. And we can do demonstrations on the equipment if people want to have that.
Let's say there's a volunteer that has a certain disability. What kind of accommodations, like how would the town, but they want to volunteer in the kitchen, how would the town accommodate them? What would the town do to handle that?
It depends on what the disability is. And we would try to find a volunteer opportunity that they could fulfill.
Okay.
That would have to be done on a case-by-case basis. So, Colin, did you have any comments on the ADA accessibility as we reviewed that? The space is quite accessible. You can get around it. Based on the measurements from the original ADA plan, some of the measurements were taken from like lighting structures. They didn't take the measurements from certain areas, and you corrected that in the comments.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct, Jane. The kitchen itself, because of the equipment in there, is not fully accessible from an ADA standpoint. For example, we don't have 34-inch counters with the required knee space. That said, the serving counter, for example, was designed with the space to allow someone in a wheelchair to roll up and be able to sit there and use that counter. But they would not have access to all of the professional equipment. We do have the maneuvering space, for example, the aisle width, but you would not have the front approach required in a wheelchair to use every piece of equipment in there.
And I'm just trying to understand the constraint. So the reason why it's not fully ADA compliant, is it a cost issue, or is there like just a design issue that putting in these accommodations would just make it difficult to use? Like what's the driving constraint for that?
Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. I unfortunately was not on this project in the beginning when it went through some of the schematic design choices with the town. But I know from when I did come on the project, to make it fully accessible would require a significantly larger footprint. Um, and what we see happen with these community centers is sometimes to make a kitchen like that fully accessible, there would be a second kitchen in addition to the professional kitchen. But to modify this one to make it fully accessible for someone in a wheelchair and public access, the footprint would get significantly larger, and the equipment would have to change significantly. Uh, I believe, at least from what I know of the schematic design choices, is all of these were decisions that the town made early on in the design review process.
That's correct.
That's correct. I can give you a quick overview of the design of the kitchen. Everything that I can see on this project refers to a commercial kitchen, a commercial or professional kitchen. That's what was included in the scope of the project that the building committee was asked to administer. During the schematic design phase, which is the phase after feasibility, which runs kind of from last fall up through February, March, leading up to town vote, and the town meeting vote. We expanded the design of the entire building, and as part of that, we had we called a design or a stakeholders working group that had two members, I believe two members of the Council on Aging on that group. And a lot of these things we're talking about now were discussed, reviewed, and decisions were made then. And the schematic design as completed included the kitchen, the commercial kitchen that that is included in the project. There were questions along the way. I think Ari asked a question about the commercial kitchen in his review, if I recall correctly. He was kind of looking at it from a sustainability standpoint in a completely different avenue. But the package that we put, the schematic design package that we put to the town meeting and to the town to vote, was included a commercial kitchen. As we moved into design development, we had again, we had working groups, and we had, in particular with the kitchen, we had a specific working group. This is something that I think Joel or Colin can chime in, is probably above and beyond what they normally do. But we had multiple meetings with the designer, BH plus A, as well as the food service consultant that we hired. Two members of Council on Aging were on that working group. Nancy Toomey was part of it. I did not attend every meeting, but I was in and out of those meetings. Those meetings were in depth, reviewing every piece of equipment, why it's here, why not here, what can we do here, what should we do here. If those meetings resulted in things moving around, ultimately, the question of, is it a commercial kitchen or like a teaching kitchen, that the average resident can walk in and be in that kitchen cooking. It's two completely different things. And in my mind, the direction from select board and the direction from the town has always been that it's a commercial kitchen. And the kitchen design that we have today is the result of all that buildup. Questions we have today, I don't see as a question of design. The kitchen is designed. The ADA peer review that we did had questions about the ADA, except the accessibility of the kitchen. BH plus A answered those questions. And the kitchen, I don't see like changing the design of the kitchen as a topic of conversation. The use of the kitchen and how we use it is definitely something that will be worked through. Um, as we build the building and the town works through the operations, and it's something that could change in the future. That could be a policy that's adopted, that's very liberal and very friendly and allows a lot of people to use it. And we might find that the kitchen gets abused and things are getting broken, and you may change that policy. You may change the policy in a different direction. But there's been a long history. Um, there's been a lot of discussion about the design. It's been kicked around by a lot of different people. And one of the other factors on the commercial kitchen is that the fire department, um, it was discussed to use this building as a shelter in place building, which requires a commercial kitchen. So that is something, if anyone was going to consider a redesign, that's something that we would have to undo, which I don't even know how we'd begin to undo that. So I appreciate everyone's comments, and I definitely appreciate the thoughtful questions that provoke all this commentary. But I do want to be clear that the time to talk about the design of the kitchen was last summer and a year ago, and it wasn't like it didn't happen. It happened in depth, much more than it would probably in most projects. Does anyone have any other questions or comments before we move on from the kitchen
Yeah.
to the next item?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, yes, it was actually not really last summer, it was the summer before, that some of those decisions were made. And the fall 24, the then fire chief, Chief Burns, was clear, as you said, that this was to be used as an emergency shelter. And it was to be designed that way, as the Killam project was also designed, and that's why we have the generator and so forth, and the commercial kitchen, the requirement of that. Additionally, to do a teaching kitchen, you would have to use a lot more space, and the decision was made that the multipurpose room and the meeting space were the bigger priorities. And of course, we wanted to make it a shelter, so we had to have that commercial kitchen and not add a second kitchen for cooking classes. We don't do a lot of cooking classes anyway; those are pretty rare. And to devote the level of square footage to make that happen would not be fiscally responsible. As the projects passed and were developed, once it became clear that they were both passed, we did not make the Killam School a shelter in design, and so we took away the larger generator as part of that project. I think that's correct, Mr. Chairman. So Recal has been maintained to fulfill that purpose, and it has other features, including showers, a place where pets can be held in an emergency, and so forth, that make it truly an asset to the community. And so that's another reason why we have this commercial kitchen. So that's some like long history there, but just so that you're aware of that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, Ms. Town Manager. I think, Marilyn's not here, so I can't really say exactly what she was getting at, but I didn't think, reading her questions, that her concern was, is this a commercial kitchen or not? It was, will the kitchen support the uses residents expect? The answer I got tonight sounds like, the uses that she listed in the email, the town believes that we can support them all. I think if I were to summarize the answer, it just requires a food permit, but it doesn't preclude the use of the kitchen for any of those functions. Do I accurately represent what
I think that's
Jenna?
fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone have any other comments before we move on to 9B?
Mr. Chairman, Nancy has her hand raised, but I'm not sure if you're taking public comment, so just wanted to
I'm
mention.
I'm not going to take public comment during the meeting. Thank you. So we're gonna move on to item 9B. The divider partition and potential changes to infrastructure in the makerspace. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, I should say, at a meeting. We heard a lot from Council on Aging members about why they felt they wanted a partition and different spaces. I said at that meeting that I didn't support dividing that room, and the main reason it is it's less of a budget. It's more, I think you do more harm than good to the whole room by doing that. We did hear loud and clear concerns about having appropriate spaces throughout the building. So BH plus A and town staff sort of challenged themselves to look at various spaces as options to provide, maximum flexibility. The couple things I'll say about this project, when it's all done, it's going to be beautiful. That's one thing. When it's all done, a lot of these things that are keeping us up at night, these little decisions, myself included, are going to kind of, I don't want to say, I don't want to trivialize anyone's concern, but they're going to look trivial when we look back on it. And another thing, as much as we think we know exactly how we're going to use this building, while we're all mostly right, we're all a little bit wrong, and we don't really know. And we, in my mind, the best thing we can do is to provide as much flexibility as possible, so that if certain spaces are being overused and certain spaces are being underused and certain programs are being over or underused, we have some flexibility. So any changes that we make that offers flexibility down the road, things that for short money we can change some infrastructure. I'm fully in support of that. But that's kind of where I stand on this. I know I'll turn it over. I don't know, Ron, you wanted to put this on the agenda, so I'll kind of turn it over to you if you have anything you want to sort of discuss or outline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, of course, as you are all probably aware, I've spent time reviewing both the divider study that BH&A provided a couple months ago and the cost estimate, because I wanted to better understand what exactly was being proposed and why the estimated cost was so high. One thing I learned is that proposal is not really talking about a room divider in the ordinary sense. It's talking about a skyfold overhead acoustic operable partition integrated into the building, its structure itself. In layman's terms, I would describe that as like the Cadillac version of the room divider. We're looking more for like a Toyota version of the divider. But once I understood that, I understood much better why the estimate reached approximately $307,000. Reviewing the estimate also helped me better understand and appreciate the town's concerns regarding cost, scope, timing, and overall project stewardship. So I do understand where the town's coming from. At the same time, every member of the Council on Aging who has weighed in on the concept of divisibility has supported the idea, including members who are frequently at the Pleasant Street Center and are the most common, are most likely to be the users who would benefit from it. So as a Council on Aging representative on the committee, I believe it's important that those concerns be acknowledged and considered. But I also appreciate the effort that the town staff and members of this committee have put into developing alternatives. The makerspace proposals that have been shared represent a serious attempt to address concerns about small program space. The COA just met prior to this meeting to review those makerspace alternatives, and they didn't endorse either option. They supported the idea of reserving room 230 as a dedicated small program space and moving the makerspace furniture into the arts and crafts room. That's a little bit different than my position. So I'm not representing the Council on Aging position on that. As a member of this committee, based on my review of the materials, the question I keep coming back to is not whether we preserve a divider or preserve the makerspace. The question is whether the building will provide sufficient, appropriately sized space for small programs both now and the future. That's always been my underlying concern throughout the discussion. From that perspective, option one for room 230 appears to come closest to addressing the objectives that originally led to the divider discussion in the first place. There has been talk about moving the makerspace furniture out of room 230 and combining it, consolidating it with the arts and crafts space. I support that idea. I think there's a tremendous synergy between the two. A lot of the equipment can be, applies to both. So I do support that idea, even though that's not specifically part of option one. But I have two questions. So the first question I have is, if the Skyfold system represents a premium solution, are there more conventional operable wall systems? Were they ever evaluated? Or are we concluding that divisibility itself is not desirable? And the second question I have is, if the committee decides not to pursue a divider today, and it looks like where we're heading, are there reasonable accommodations that could be incorporated now to preserve the option of future divisibility, enabling features such as structure support, rough-ins, or ceiling accommodations? My goal, again, is not to advocate for a particular outcome this evening. It's to ensure that we fully understand the available options and the implication of those choices over the life of the building. So I guess what I'm saying is that there's some uncertainty about whether or not we need a divider for our current programming needs. And I understand that. And I can understand it's a big commitment to commit to a divider that may or may not have use. But what can we do to implement enabling structure to support a divider in the future should we realize that need arises? Like, let's say 3 or 4 years down the road, or 5 years or 10 years down the road, we realize that small programming needs are going to increase. Karen Herrick shared a statistic that showed that there's a tsunami of 50 plus residents who are going to be joining the 60 plus community in the next few years. So supporting those needs. And as these small programs grow, they're not going to move into bigger rooms, they're going to split. I've led a men's study for many years. The smallness is the desirable feature of these groups. So as groups grow from 12 to 20, it's not like they're going to move into the larger space. They're going to want to split into two. So you're going to end up with two small programs instead of just one. So just accommodating for future needs. I think that the makerspace option accommodates for our current needs, but I still would advocate for leaving the option open for a divider in the future. Not committing to the divider today, but leaving that option open so that if that need ever arises, that the cost would not be prohibitive. So that was my proposal. I see that as a compromise proposal that accommodates today's needs, but leaves open so the compromise is that the makerspace option one is the preferred alternative, that we ask BHA and the project team to identify on that list of items that was provided in the original analysis for the cost and the design changes that would be needed, which of those elements could be incorporated now to preserve future divisibility, and then just evaluate the cost now versus retrofitting those costs in the future. But the key thing is to defer any decision on the actual divider until the building has been in operation long enough to evaluate the real programming demand.
As far as the divider, just off the top of my head, making sure that we have adequate structure and power, I think would be is a very reasonable ask, and more importantly, I think that would be a prudent thing for the town to do that I would support. Have to look at each item to figure out, but I think that makes sense. And I don't want to set us up to, I don't want to set us up to like do a renovation in 6 months, but certainly to provide the flexibility down the road, I think makes a lot of sense. Ari, did you have a comment?
Yeah. I agree that I'd like to wrap my head around what the details are of this. Um, one other change is, those three light fixtures probably have to become four light fixtures, and the two heat pump cassettes probably need to be zoned separately. I assume they're currently zoned on the same, so that can. But those are all things that seem very reasonable. And I think this offers a really good compromise that might let us finally put this question behind us and address future needs without having to completely yeah. I mean, I think the arguments have been exhausted over the past couple meetings. So it seems like this. My recollection as well was that the beam up there is already strong enough to support this. So what are we really asking for? We're just asking that.
Mr. Chair, can you
I almost wonder if it already exists, that aside from maybe a light and a valve.
I can comment on that briefly. All right. What's highlighted on the screen right now is the beam that is put in that was always planned to be there because a decision at the time had not been made about having a skyfold operable partition that space. So that beam is serving two functions. One, it would support the door, and two, it would reduce the span of the floor joists. During the study that we're looking at here, that beam is actually raised up about 16 inches. So that is one component of making sure that the room would accept an operable partition in the future. Part 2 and 3 already just commented on. It's the HVAC zones and the electrical, so that we have the operability to control the lights. Part 4 would be the audio visual component and making sure the ref for any future TV, soundbar, camera would possibly be pulled to the location you would want it.
This is Joel. Can you, on your screen there, just box in if we did the other type of partition, the 4x4 box that's required to either project into the hallway or project into the room, and why? One reason why that was rejected?
I believe this is Peter's screen here, but Peter, if there was, rather than a skyfold partition coming down from the ceiling, if it had a closet,
if we went to the overall floor plan, we could.
Yeah.
And this, just to interrupt briefly, Ron, one of your questions was, this is a Cadillac, was a Chevy considered? I don't love those analogies, but they're actually great because they do give everyone a good understanding. What we have here is a partition that would fall down from the ceiling, and you could have a modern fold operable partition that comes out from the wall. And that I think would be more cost effective. And Joel and or Colin can kind of tell you why they don't like that.
Well, it's a 4x4 box, and it would either project 2 feet into the room and 2 feet into the hallway, which wouldn't be very good, or it would project all 4 feet into the room, which would be even worse, or it could project 4 feet into the hallway, at which point the 6-foot wide hallway would be only 2 feet wide at that point. So we also did go through the acoustic properties of the two partitions, and that was brought up to a vote, as the skyfold door is a much better acoustically designed partitions so that you hear less noise from one side of it to the other. The horizontal doors are sort of notorious for not performing acoustically at that high of a value, but mostly it was the intrusion on the room or the corridor that negated the horizontal wall.
Would the structure that's there now support either one of those in the future? Could you
It
still?
would structurally, it has the capacity to support. It is the location of the beam as it was originally designed that has to move up 16 inches. That's what we're seeing in that view right there.
Right, but what I'm saying is
Currently,
what I'm asking is the what you've marked up to raise the beam and hang the joists off hangers instead of over the beam. Can that do a skyfold or a horizontal door in the future?
You'd have to put an extender on the beam to do the horizontal wall.
But
Yeah,
I mean that.
you'd have to pat it down, but that would
Okay,
be
but that's so
yes.
I don't think we need to debate which one it is right now. I think we just can say that this can do either, and let's vote and move forward if we can.
Peter, is it possible to share my proposal? Because I actually break down the different components and the estimated costs that were a part of the BH&A design analysis. Do you have that?
Let me look. Give me a second. Keep talking. I have the estimate here.
So,
Go
so, just as in my layperson lens, so what we're not asking for the divider. So the skyfold operable partition door and skylight would not be a part of this motion. We're taking that out with the idea that we might be able to add it in the future or some similar partition that would meet the requirements. But and I think the structural beam, I had a question about that because I know that it's estimated as $15,000. That structural beam was going in one way or the other. Are we saying that $15,000, that's the cost to raise it 18 inches or 16
yes.
inches? Okay. And then there's
I
there's
I
other
think that's
enabling
not.
components.
This is John
Go
Coote.
ahead.
No, that's not true. That's not by any means true. That $15,000 was the cost of the beam, not realizing that the beam was there anyway. So it doesn't cost $15,000 to raise it a few inches.
Okay.
No.
So
Yeah,
that's
John's
useful to know.
correct about
Okay.
that point.
So the other enabling components in that the design analysis, they total out to about $39,000. So I don't know which of those can be implemented or cannot be implemented. But what I'm asking is we look at those enabling components and determine which ones could be implemented now. And it's, altogether they're under 39. They're about $39,000.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Anyone wants to I don't know if anyone has any commentary on that?
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
sorry,
Oh,
Ari.
sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to agree with Ron. I think setting it up so that in the future, if they want to put a partition in because it becomes important, would be a very wise way of approaching this and see what happens. And I also feel that option one on the makerspace at least makes that space feel more like a conference room rather than just another makerspace. I disagree that use of that space should go into the arts and crafts room because I think they're very different types of spaces, and they're not meant to be an overflow of both. But that doesn't mean that they can't use the makerspace as a conference room, as a small room. It's a perfect size for it. It's about 500 square feet, which is what you're dividing the other room into. So I like Ron's proposal really very much. I think these are minimal costs to gain flexibility for the future. So I support it.
Colin, can you walk us through a little bit basically we're adding a little bit of millwork or casework to the makerspace room. That's the biggest change.
That in this option really is the only change. It's utilizing that kind of pocket space that projects out over the reception lobby space below. That would be adding some storage, some cabinets, and making the AV component more of a permanent fixture rather than the cart system that we had previously.
What's option two?
The purpose of option two was to get the computer space outside of the room. So if you had a small group meeting and somebody wanted to use the computers, they're not mutually exclusive. So the computer alcove is a publicly accessible space that's accessible anytime the building's open without any compromise. Option one, or the one above that, once the room's being used for a conference or the makers, for another use, you can't really use those computers.
Yeah, and I appreciate the analysis and thought that went into option two. I realize a lot of effort and hard work went into it, and I think it's a great idea. But for me, the driving concern is, are we creating right size space for small programs? So if you take the Plex program room and you put a divider and you're creating two spaces that are 500 square feet, we think that that's appropriate for meetings that are 12 to 20 people. And we really want to preserve that when we preserve a space for small programming needs. And when you look at the two options, we just think that maybe 365 square feet might support some small programs, but it wouldn't support larger ones that have 18 to 20 people, whereas the option one does. So that's why I prefer option one over option two, although both are very good, both were excellent
I would
choices.
just
So
comment that if you have 18 or 20 people, you're going to want to have them in the larger room. That the 900 square foot room is really designed for that size group. And
yeah.
the,
And
I think that your point's well taken, but when we had the public comment, there's not a bunch of advocates here tonight for having a public access computer station, but there were a number of advocates for that during the design phase, and that's just not important to this particular group, but that doesn't mean that it's not an important. The design is a series of compromises or accommodations, and you try to do the best you can with the money, and there's no single issue that you try to let dominate the picture.
Joel, I appreciate you saying that because from what we've heard over the past number of months, the need for this smaller space is really important. And that means that if that's the case, this room is going to get used as the smaller meeting space often. And that is a problem for those computers that are supposed to be used. So I would lean towards option two, that for that reason. Again, I don't think it's like, I think either of these or doing either of these is a better option than installing the partition on day one. But I do see the point. I think that there's a lot of people who want to use those computers, and if they keep showing up and finding that the time that they came and thought they'd be open has a program schedule in there, I think that would frustrate people.
I think the position on the Council on Aging is that they would recommend moving those computers in that space to the arts and crafts room. That's not my position. That's the Council on Aging's position that they just voted. My position is to be flexible about it. For me, the concern is 365 square feet. I think they can easily support up to 12 groups that are up to 12 people, but a lot of those groups are going to. I think we're going to want like the 18. The option one has the conference table with 18 chairs. I think we're going to want something like that. Not every group's going to be that large, but a good portion of small programs might be that large. And then the key thing to remember about these small programs is as they grow, they're not going to move into the larger rooms. They're going to split. Most of these groups, when they get up to 15 or 16 people, they're not going to move into that larger space. They're going to split into two smaller groups. Having led a men's group for many, many years, the smallness is the attracting feature to these groups. So The demand for small programs, to Ari's point, is only going to increase in the future.
And I would also add that having computers in that makerspace is going to be important, especially if it's going to be used as a makerspace. You need a computer in there to drive any kind of printer that also ends up in that space. So I think those computers are more designed or in a place that makes most sense for it to be still continued as a makerspace, and even a small group that needs to meet around a computer. I think it's important to have that there. I'd rather see those public computers down in the lounge area myself, but that was eliminated early on. So there you go.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Joel. You mentioned you got feedback during design, I recall this, for sort of accessible computers, like one-off. Like how in the current design, how are we solving that? I don't think we are.
Well, it was in the alcove of the makerspace, so that
Okay.
and there's a printer in between the two that people did want to have that access. It's just my only point is that once it's not the makerspace is really a come and go space. It's not necessarily always functioning as a program space with groups in it. It could be one person going in and working with a 3D printer, or one person going in and working with some sort of analog type tool. The only issue now is if you have a men's group in there, that sort of precludes the other uses. So now you get into a scheduling device. I mean, it's I can show you pictures of a maker space. It's not necessarily compatible with having 19 or 18 seats of people in a meeting. I mean,
Yeah,
I also
I
think
will say,
that table for 18 is, I hear what you're saying about the groups, but that's an uncomfortable table and not the most comfortable room for a meeting. You sort of hard pressed to speak from one end of the table to someone that's at the other end of that table.
and I also hear what you're saying, that if the makerspace is not going to be moved into the arts and crafts, then it would be beneficial to have an alcove where people can always use at least components of what's part of the makerspace. So I definitely see the merits to option two. A lot of it comes down to where's the makerspace ultimately going to be. If it's going to continue to be in room 230, that changes the discussion significantly. So, I can support either option. I think that they're very well thought out options, and I do like the fact that it is creating small program space. Either way, I continue to support option one because I think that it's more in line with what we were trying to do with the divider to support current programming needs. I won't be sad if option two wins.
Um, Jane and Jenna, do you have any commentary on, what you foresee as the uses for these spaces um, and what the best outcome would be based on your best vision of how everything's going to be utilized?
Sure. We did speak with staff about both of the options, option one and option two. Staff does prefer option one. We're just a little nervous that option two would not be an adequate space for maybe a larger class. And we prefer the longer table too for the tinkering and engineering and robotics that will go on in that room. Um, we're noticing and we're hearing that the computer labs are a little obsolete. We don't really have too many people that come in and utilize the computers on a daily basis. So I don't think um, it's going to be an issue if there's a meeting in there and someone wants to use the computer. We can also rent Chromebooks, which we have done before in the past. We've rented out Chromebooks to people. And if they needed to sync up to one of our printers downstairs or something like that, I'm sure we could accommodate that if it's an emergency and they need a printer right away. So I think overall staff prefers option one. We love how the TV will be mounted on the wall. It'll give flexibility for the small room meeting space that the COA was wanting. So overall, I think option one was the best for staff, and I don't know if Jane's still on if she wants to weigh in.
I'm still here. Of course, I'm still here. No, I would concur with Jenna. I think that flexibility right now is the name of the game when it comes to the makerspace and the arts and crafts room. That I really love the addition of the storage in option one to that space. And I think that, you know, we're designing this building, and well, we're not, but BH plus A has done a great job with this building and being able to offer space to things that don't exist yet. So there were no maker spaces when, you know, the last buildings in town were built, not really. And like with the library. And so we don't know what programs we're going to be offering 20 years from now. And so having place to store some things, having, you know, adequate electrical outlets, that kind of stuff I think is important, because we may find that we take a cart of devices and use it in the arts and crafts room, or we might do all kinds of things. So I think the flexibility is the important thing, and I think option one is key. And because it's not just going to be for a small group, you know, a conversational group or a class, it will also be used by young people from time to time through the recreation programs in the afternoons and the evenings. And so we want to be able to accommodate young people as well. And I think having the makerspace separate from arts and crafts, preserving that space, as Nancy said earlier, will be important to that side of our programming plans as well.
Yeah. Just a quick, I saw something in the chat. Someone was trying to get in. I don't know, maybe.
I think also Karen Janowski might also be trying to get in. I think they just got out of their
Yeah, she's
Council on
on.
Aging meeting.
Yep,
Okay.
Karen's on.
I don't.
And
I
someone
shut the
else.
wait
they
list
have
off,
ideas.
so everyone should be able to be getting in.
Okay. Okay. I have one question. In the arts and crafts room, is there any infrastructure that we might want to add? And I'm thinking power, additional outlets, things like that. If makerspace type activities either was, you know, as part of the, you know, feeling out the operations, if it overflowed to that space or was somewhat moved to that space, is there anything that we would want to consider? Again, sticking with the theme of, you know, maximum flexibility down the road. It's really a question, I think, for Colin or Joel.
Yeah, I mean, as Nancy spoke about, you know, the computers, the proximity to a computer, so that you have access to printers, 3D print programming.
Okay. Okay.
The other component, looking at it, we do have a floor core in the maker space so that there is power and data accessible in the center of the room. That might be something to consider for the arts and crafts space.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions or commentary?
I'm changing my support to option one on the makerspace based on the real world comments that everyone's gave. I like that. And yeah, so Pat, to your point on the arts, there may be a day, as maybe when I'm 60 and have arts and crafts, that the difference between a makerspace and arts and crafts may be very slim, to suggest that there are some more high-tech things that could go on in either room. So it's sufficient, you know, just enough circuits to be able to run something more elaborate electrically in the, I would be surprised if it can't already, but well, I could see just flexibility in terms of power. There's not much that can't get added later in terms of power. So
Yeah, I agree. It's probably already thought through, but I feel like we're zoning in on a consensus. One of the things I do want to make clear, I think if we have a motion, the directive we will be giving to our design team will be for BH plus A to generate a proposal request that would go to the contractor to price a certain number of things that would result in a change order that would come back through the financial working group and through the committee for final approval. But definitely, I'm feeling a consensus around asking BH plus A to create a proposal request to add infrastructure for an operable partition in the flex room, make the option 1 changes to the makerspace room, and I would say investigate the arts and crafts room to ensure there's adequate infrastructure for for the flexibility that we're talking about, which, as Colin mentioned, that might be putting in a floor box. Which is that on the first floor?
Second.
Phew. That gives us a little bit of breathing. But I'm kind of sensing a consensus around that. If anyone wants to make a motion.
I move exactly what you said.
Second.
All right. Anyone want to discuss further? Okay. No discussion. Go to the vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote. Do we lose John?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Kirk McCormick.
Yes.
Mike Nazaro.
Yes.
Ari Greenberg.
yes.
Ron Powell.
Yes.
Pat Tompkins. Yes. I got everyone right. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may offer, we should also request a proposal from the design team for such design changes.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, the designer needs to do things to put a PCO together for the contractor to price up, but there is sufficient redesign work and preparation for what was just described by the design team for consideration as well.
Yeah. I agree. I fully support that. Obviously, it would start with a proposal from them to do the work.
I would suggest that, yes.
Um,
In fairness, that's my thought.
No, I don't disagree. I was kind of skipping past that as an obvious thing, but they do need will need approval. And
So-
we can vote.
Yeah.
We can vote to release them to do that work pending review of a reasonable and appropriate proposal. But I don't know if anyone wants to throw a rough number at it that we can.
Well, I think if I could just jump in, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, don't mean to interrupt.
No, absolutely, you're right.
I think we'll ask the design team to prepare a proposal as mentioned by the motion that was just approved. And if they can get it to us forthwith, we will use the change order review process that we authorized earlier this evening.
Perfect.
That was part of the whole recipe, if you will.
Yes. That makes sense to me, and most importantly, it doesn't require another vote.
So just food for thought for the committee to consider, or be
Yeah,
aware.
no,
be aware of.
I 100% agree with that, and I 100% agree that BH plus A has done a lot of work on this stuff already. That's technically outside their scope, and they're doing it, as part of their scope. They've been great. You've both been great partners so far, and I agree. When we get into situations like this where we're asking them to redesign something, it's something that's additional to that contract, and they should be compensated appropriately for it.
So we should have a motion, don't you think, for a proposal from them? Is that correct?
Does this come under the category, though, that if we do not if we delay approving their proposal for another month, does that seriously affect the progress of the job? I don't see that. I don't see that it does, but that's just my view. In other words, I don't think what we voted on earlier about giving Joe authority to approve change orders, I don't think this particular one complies with the restrictions we earlier voted on.
Mr. I was contemplating this right here. I'm of the thought, if we wait 30 more days to authorize the designer to prepare a proposal, which is going to take several days thereafter, and then the contractor to price up the proposal, we might be into September. By the way, steel is arriving soon. If we can expedite the design team's cost, should they submit a proposal? I'm not saying they are, or they will, or they won't, but I think we have an opportunity to move it forward quicker. And by this time next month, we'll have everything in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think, John, it's like those floor joists. I don't know what's in the truss package that Colin mentioned. He said he got the roof trusses. Those floor joists are probably in that submittal. And the contractor's going to be asking for those back, and Colin's going to be looking at him, scratching his head, not knowing what to do. So we do need to move this forward. We can
Okay,
have a
no
vote.
problem. Yeah, all right. You've persuaded me. Yeah.
Okay, and we can vote. I just don't have a number to authorize a value to authorize BH plus A. And if there's a not to exceed number that someone wants to float out, we could vote on that, have a discussion about it. There's definitely, I don't think anyone on the committee, has, disagrees with, we're asking them to do extra work and they should get paid appropriately for it. So we can, Nancy, to your point, we can have a motion and a vote. I just don't know what exactly that motion looks like.
Why don't I try it? Move to ask BH plus A to put a proposal together to redesign such that it accommodates the motion for flexibility in the building as previously stated, as soon as possible. And then when it comes in, it can be considered by the financial working group as being
Good.
reasonable. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All right. But apparently my dog is seconding the motion. Does anyone have any further discussion on that? To the vote, Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Michael Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. On to 9C. Thank you all. I think that was a worthwhile discussion that is overall going to make the project better. I appreciate all the input we've got from the public and all the hard work everyone has done, particularly BH plus A and town staff and Ron and everyone on Council on Aging. I know everyone's put a lot of thought into that, and I think that's a really good. I think we ended in a great place. So moving on to a review of the layout of the gym windows. This came up a few meetings ago. John brought it up, kicked around a little bit. It came up again at the last meeting. We were asked to put it back on the agenda. There's a couple of options that have been discussed, and I don't know. I think I'll turn it over to Colin to quickly discuss these options and what you see as pros and cons about them. I think Joel, this, I would just say there'll be times during the process when we say, hey, why didn't we do this? And everyone will say, we just didn't think of that. And there'll be other times when we say, hey, why don't we do this? And the answer is, well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why we're doing it this specific way that I designed, and I don't necessarily agree with making a change. And I think we're in the latter here. So I definitely want to hear Colin from you and Joel, if Joel wants to chime in, your thoughts on the changes that are being suggested. So you can walk us through some options.
Yeah, sure. I can talk quickly about that. Joel was part of this exercise a couple months ago when this first came up. The walking track was initially designed with these view corridors that look out no matter which direction that you are walking on. Um, and the gym itself was also designed with a specific capacity for heating and cooling in mind, considering glare for the courts below, a number of different factors. So it's kind of a balance between providing connection to the outdoors and these views out for the people using the track, while not taking away from the ability for other occupants to do other activities in the space. We heard that there might have been a missed opportunity to see out into the woods more. So we looked at kind of shifting that window that you're looking at right there on the right, down to the other corner so that you're seeing out of the building when you're walking counterclockwise. That window on the far left, you're looking out at the woods when you're walking the other direction. And then we added another window up at the top. The reason we added at the track level and not the courts is one, when you're in the courts, you're playing basketball, you're playing pickleball, you're playing volleyball. So it makes more sense to have the window above. And it was also kind of the implication of what would change at the court level. We have those pads there that go all the way around the wall where we don't have glazing, and we have these nice wood veneer panels. So to add windows on this floor, there wasn't much return on the effort, and that's where we went with this study that we're seeing. I put together a couple quick kind of comparison views in these renderings here. When you flip through the set, you can see the as designed and then the alternate. So you can kind of analyze and get a feel for how this space would change.
One question I have, Colin, was there was conversation at one point about not necessarily adding a window, but relocating the window from the gym level up to the track level.
That is something to consider. We could relocate one. It does change what happens on the ground, and it depending on how that all plays out, it's likely a more expensive ad, given the variety of finishes down there than just dropping in an additional window. That said, there may be a balancing act with the heating and cooling, and I can't say with certainty how that would play out, but I wouldn't think a single window would change things significantly enough to result in significantly sizing up the HVA system in there.
Pat, can I just jump in there since it was my
Sure.
suggestion which started all of this. This is nothing like what I suggested. I suggested that we move the window, which is currently at the court level, up to the track level for two reasons. One is I don't think it's appropriate to have at the court level 90% of the walls padded, presumably for a reason. I presume it's a safety reason. And then suddenly we have a hard and friable surface right behind one of the pickleball courts. I didn't see any rationale for that to be considered sensible. why would anybody want to have a window at the court level? The players certainly don't want it. They look inwards. They look at what's going on inside. They're not going to look outside. And if they do look outside, you don't see anything. All you see is a load of trees within 20 feet. There's nothing to see down at that level. If we took that window and moved it up to the track level, you would greatly increase or improve the views for the people walking on the track. Now, I'm sure that the track is going to be designated as one directional. That's how tracks typically are in courts.
Actually, they're not. They're bi-directional. You do one direction every other day.
Why do you do that, Joel?
For a couple of reasons. It's better for the surface, but it's better for the people that are walking because you get repetitive stress syndrome, so they reverse the direction of the track. Because one day you're working on the inside left ankle, and the next day you're on the right ankle.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, I think that, people walk, when they walk in the countryside or in the mountains, they do it because they're looking at something. They do it for the views. And there are not many views on this track that which would encourage people to use it. So why not improve the views by putting a window there? And if the window is not required for any rational reason down at the court level, but is required at the track level, it seems to me to make complete sense to take it from below and put it above.
That's easy
That's
enough to do.
that's my opinion, and that's why I suggested this. It's for the benefit of the people who are doing the walking. It would improve their views of outside of the building.
Yeah, that's logical. Go ahead.
Could I just ask though? I don't think it's just pickleball and basketball going on at the gym level, isn't it? Yoga and all sorts of other things that might be happening in that space, or other programs that go on in that space. I would hate to see a dark, space down there without having at least some windows in there. And when you're walking down the corridor in the main area and looking through the windows there into the gym, it's nice to see something beyond and not just all the walls. That's
exactly it, Nancy. Those windows are through the doors and entrances into the gym. So there is more of those view corridors that I was talking about.
Right.
So Jenna, can you give some feedback on potential uses of the gym?
Sure, I think Nancy is absolutely correct that there could be a variety of other activities aside from pickleball. There could be also community events, so it would be nice to have some light on that lower level as well. And Colin, we don't need to be nervous with like the glass shattering if a pickleball or Joel, if a pickleball were to hit it or a basketball or something like that, right? They're pretty break proof or
It's high impact resistant glass. That's correct. Yeah.
yeah.
Is there an option?
I think the other thing would be from a staff perspective, is there going to be shades on these regardless of what the PBC decides with the windows? Because if there is a glare that comes in or if it gets extremely hot or cold and we want to put a shade down, is that going to be an option?
There's shades on both. Upper and lower level.
Ari, did you have something?
Yeah, so since today's all about compromising, it sounds like I tend to agree with John that I don't think views from the lower level of the gym are important, and I even more strongly agree that taking out the padding and putting in a glass in a gym is weird. So if with that in mind, but with still the desire to get some light in that space, could you make that lower floor window more of like a clear story, like a high up strip of window that preserves the padding underneath? And then, I actually think the ideal thing is to do what John said and just move the whole thing upstairs. But if there's a desire to have light on the first floor. Maybe it doesn't need to be a view window. Maybe it's more of a, sorry, I'm going to use the wrong architectural term, but a transom. Thank you. A transom window. For
Colin,
some
can you
light.
go back to the previous? I think that if we're going to leave that window there, the easiest and most straightforward thing to do is to just move, don't move this, is to move the window into that bay. The two windows would be centered on the gym, and I think it would make more sense than scattering them along the way. It would be if you're going to do it, would be a pretty spectacular window. And
I agree,
would,
Joel, with that completely. I think the two large windows adjacent to one another makes a much better view than two windows which are separated.
yeah,
Much more dramatic. That's much more what people want in terms of view. They want a vista, and you get a vista by having a large window, very large window.
Yeah, that'll be a great experience up there.
And then we compromise on the ground floor. I don't think the transom. Then we end up having the beam out. We have to get a beam in to carry the window. This way we can move the steel around, and it would be a minimal change order.
If I was going to do anything at that, like if we were going to leave anything at the lower window in the gym, like I agree, I just leave it the way it is. The less change, the better.
I'm thinking of costs, Pat. If we swap one window for another, it's obviously less costly than adding a window. And since money seems to be, the driving factor in this, it was at the last meeting anyway. I just don't see the sense of having an expensive window down below where nobody's going to look out. So.
I think the money you get back from deleting the window you spend by adding wood paneling and padding. And you can debate with me whether that has merit or not, but we'll see what happens on the other side of the contractor's proposal.
I would just urge you to, we need to do this quickly because steel's coming with shop drawings and all that. We need to, this
Joel,
one can't wait.
this steel was already reviewed, so this would be a change to something we've looked at.
Yeah.
So we have to, it's not fabricated, so I just think we'd have to do it quickly.
Yeah. Can we back up for one moment? I'm going to let everyone ponder. I think we're down to if we added a window to the track, Joel, you would recommend actually on further review, you'd recommend adding it next to the existing window, sliding it over.
That's correct.
Yes. So we're contemplating, I think, three options. One is adding that window. Two is adding that window and deleting the one in the gym, and three is just not doing anything on that elevation. So let that percolate in your brain. The other swapping of the window, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is a no cost. Joel and Peter are cringing, but this thought came about as we were talking about windows, and I think it came from Nancy, and it was just like, hey, how about we slide this over so when you're walking in a different direction, you have a view. Is there merit to doing that? Do we think that's worthwhile? And do we? I'm not even going to ask you if you agree with me that it's no cost. We're going to say it's no cost. It's got to be, or at least negligible.
I think it was our proposal. It's not a cost proposal. It's a no change cost.
And
no cost change.
Do we all think that makes sense? Like, nobody thinks that's a bad idea. So we should just take that off the table, and we're going to want to do that.
I think it will offer a different vista, so that is probably not a bad idea.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. When you're walking along a track, to have something in front of you to look at is good.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So we got that off the table. Now we're gonna go back. I let you guys let that percolate in your brain for a couple minutes. Now we got three options on the I don't know what elevation that is. I'll call it the west elevation.
It is the
Probably
west.
wrong.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, good. So we have three options on the west elevation: do nothing, add a window, or move a window.
If I can step in, I would say let's add a window and leave the other the way it is. I just think having that space on the first floor with some lookout is a nice feature. So I would vote to add a window or to get the cost for adding a window.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, this is one you priced already, right, Peter?
Right there, right now, real quick, real fast. $51,000.
Expensive window, isn't it?
Yeah. Or do nothing. Those are my choices.
Right here.
You don't like the idea of relocating the window?
No.
Well,
Because
we
there's a
first
cost.
talked about
There's a cost.
when we first talked about this, we discussed not adding in any windows, but just moving them to more desirable places. So I would think that I'm not sure what it doesn't seem logical to add more glazing. I would say we just I thought the goal of the exercise was to verify that the amount of glazing we have is in the right places.
Can I suggest that we just we ask J&J for both prices, and then you'll know one's the cost of adding a window and what's the cost of moving the window.
Love that idea.
That sounds good.
And then I don't know if there is any urgency, but if the PVBC wanted to sort of authorize a window of cost that Joe could, approve with confidence, or else we'd have to call for a interim meeting if J&J had the price back quickly. And I'm just worried about the steel and the sequencing of work. So
Yeah.
I'd like to get it. I'd like to get it to them as soon as we can and get a price back and make a decision.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
We're asking the contractor to add a window, relocate a window. Are we keeping the first floor window? Or deleting it?
We'd either move the first floor window or we keep it and we add a second floor. Well, there'll be two options for them to price.
But there are other windows on the first floor that we're not talking about, right? Like the one on the left side of the screen.
Right here.
We're not talking about doing anything with that.
Yeah.
I just don't see why there are any windows in the gym. I've never been in a gym that had windows.
Well,
Have you taken a lot of yoga classes, Ari?
Maybe I should take more and I'll feel more enlightened about this. But
you should take more yoga classes.
They have
when I do
kids
yoga, I'm not
three-wheel
looking out
bike
the window.
races in there and little preschool programs, and those gyms get used for lots of things.
I get the idea of light. I just don't. I would assume that the second floor windows also get light into the first floor. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think we could vote to someone wanted to make a motion to authorize BH+A to make the necessary proposal request to J&J to either relocate or add a window, and to relocate the window on the north elevation. To the extent it's within, I'm hoping that it's well within the both Peter's $50,000 estimate and Joe's $50,000 allowance. Joe could authorize that and through the financial working group.
I'm pretty confident that would be a threshold number. That would
Yeah.
work.
I'm hopeful that it's
Hopefully it's
won't.
less. Yeah.
We're asking for it. We'd have to make a decision about what to authorize. Right? If we're asking for two proposals of moving versus adding, then even if it's less than 50,000, we can't make a decision which to do.
yeah, we'd be authorizing, that decision would be at Joe and the financial working group and the project teams level. Like if we're all satisfied that one option or the other satisfies what we want.
Maybe it should be thought about this way. If moving the window is less than 50,000 and taking it out by moving it up is less than 50,000, maybe that's the way it should go. If adding a window and keeping the window down below is less than 50,000, maybe that's the way to go. I think the
That's a good
threshold would be
idea.
how much it is. Because if it's going to be over 50,000 to add a window and remove a window, then we may not want that to happen.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have them price two things. One is to relocate the window, and one is just to add.
Right. So
Um,
whichever is the least expensive,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
Okay.
that's how I would go at this point, because I mean, it's crazy that we're doing a change order for something like this right now anyway, but
Yep.
nonetheless, there's been a request for that. So if that's the way we want to look at it, I would look at whatever's the cheapest.
yeah. It's just that if
Sounds
it's
good.
I would give that guidance, but like if it's $1 cheaper,
Yeah,
like if
well, yeah, right.
they might be for financial purposes the same, virtually the same number, and then we'd kind of look for the project team and the financial working group to to go with what they think is the most advantageous proposal, which might be adding the window, I think.
I think
Although
adding the window's
Ari
the
might
best.
disagree. I'm fine with telling them to go with the most cost-effective solution. And I'm okay.
That doesn't mean the cheapest necessarily, right? Cost effective, yeah.
The best value proposal.
That's right. Value being views as well as money, in my view. I think Joel understands us sufficiently, the pros and cons, that we could trust him to make a sensible decision when the price comes in.
I definitely think we can trust our consultants to make the right decision based on the feedback they've got.
Yes.
I agree. So John,
take a
it's your
crack.
idea. You make the motion.
Oh boy, atta girl.
I'm sorry, I'm on mute.
So I will entertain a motion from someone to authorize BH+A to issue a proposal request to J&J to relocate the window on the north elevation and to price both relocating the window on the west elevation and adding a window on the west elevation, as shown in the proposal documents that they've already produced, and to proceed, and for the financial working group and Joe Huggins, authorize them to proceed if it's within their threshold on the most advantageous value oriented proposal.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Any further
Second.
discussion? Seeing none, Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. On to 9D. I got a couple of comments on the Matera cabin study. and I actually just, I think during this meeting, forwarded those on to Joe and town staff. I don't know if anyone else had reviewed that study and had any questions or comments. If not, I think we authorized that study. The study's been done. We had a chance to review it, and I expect Joe will keep us in the loop as things move forward or don't move forward with that. No one else has anything else? We can move on to 9E. The PBC reorganization, that's just food for thought. That'll be coming up this summer. And we can move on to project invoices. I'll turn it over to Peter to walk us through those. And I'll rely on Nancy to guide us through some motions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, with reference to the 4 invoices on the screen, I can say that the OPM and the design team, BH+A, have looked at the J&J requisition number 2 for $800,975 with a recommendation for the committee's consideration for approval. The OPM has looked at number 2 and 3, BH+A for $33,000, UTS for $29,019, with a recommendation for the committee to approve. With reference to item 4, I will have no comment. I'll let the committee decide.
All right, move to, we're paying these, right? Or are we just accepting them? We're paying, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're approving for payment.
Yeah.
Approving for payment, yes.
All right. Move to approve for payment J&J Contractors requisition number 2 for $800,975.
Second.
Any discussion? Go to the vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Next up.
Move to accept for payment BH+A invoice number 28014 for $33,000.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll go to the vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes.
Move to accept for payment UTS invoice number 123165 for $2,919.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes.
Move to accept for payment Turner and Townsend Heary invoice number PJIN 00476690 for $31,780.
Second.
Discussion? Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I'm not aware of any other new business that was not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours of the posting of this agenda.
Nor am I. I think that's a blank tonight.
With reference to the next meetings, item 12, you can see them listed for the balance of the calendar year. As a side note, the next meeting on July 1, I am scheduled to be out of the office. April Backus will be hosting the meeting.
Excellent. We look forward to that. You hope you have a good vacation. July 1 is right before the July 4th week, and I didn't know if that presented issues for anyone. If we were going to have trouble having a quorum. I assume not.
This is Kirk. I will not be available for that one.
Okay.
I will be traveling, but I could join remotely. So I'll be.
Okay. All right. So we shouldn't have a problem with a quorum. Anyone have any questions or comments about the upcoming meetings?
Thank you, everybody. That's the presentation.
Before we ask for a motion to adjourn, I did just want to thank everyone. Sorry to interrupt you, Peter.
No.
I just want to thank everyone for the discussion and just hearing everyone's different viewpoints and finding a way to come to compromise. I think, it was a long meeting, a lot of effort, but I think the project's better for it. And we're definitely better for all the engagement we have, both from this committee, the Council on Aging, and from all the residents that provide comment and feedback to us. I appreciate it. And I think it was a good conversation. I think it was a great outcome tonight.
Great.
All
Motion
right.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coote,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Nazaro,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg,
Yes.
Ron Powell,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. And again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.